Well, ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome,
welcome back to Pixels and Plunder.
Pixels and Plunder, episode 4.
Episode 4. 4.
4.
And this one recorded in much closer time than the last one that was recorded.
Yep.
Because we finally got our crap together.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, we didn't get our crap together, but we're here.
We have some semblance of the beginnings of a plan.
Yes. There are concepts of a plan at work.
We're in the pre-planned planning stage.
Yes.
Yes.
There's planning, there's pre-planning.
And we're pre-planning the pre-planning.
We're before that.
Yeah, pre-planning the pre-planning.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Anyway,
So,
welcome. Thank you for joining
Welcome
us.
back. Let's see. Episode 1, we did an intro.
Yep.
Episode 2, talked a lot about our favorite photographs and
Yep.
work that we've done. Episode 3, we talked a lot about mirrorless and SLR cameras and why my opinion is better. But he says he's right.
Why Josh is wrong.
But this time...
Why I'm cheating. That's what it was. Why I'm cheating. I'm cheating.
I think this time we are going to talk about the exposure triangle.
Yeah.
That's what we should talk.
I think
it's not
so.
the Bermuda Triangle. We should be afraid of such things as pirates, right?
Right.
But the exposure triangle is something totally different.
Yeah.
That we love. Justin, what?
Well,
is-
I mean, we live our life by it, right? We literally live our photographic life by the exposure.
our lives are dictated by the
exposure triangle.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Justin, would you be so kind as to explain what is the exposure triangle?
You need 3 things to make any photograph, provided you already have a camera and a lens.
3 things.
3 things, right? Once you have said camera and lens, in order to create a photo, a properly exposed photo with said camera.
Not auto mode.
Nope, not auto mode.
Not the little green mode on the dial.
Not P for professional mode.
That's an old joke.
It is an old joke. I
heard
wish
that
I
one in a
knew.
while.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
But there are 3 things that control. That was totally me. And that's a good reminder that we need to turn the phones off. Did you turn yours off?
Mine's already off.
Oh,
I beat you there.
you did. You did.
Everybody knows that sound.
Yeah, that's Michelle. I'll get back to her later.
Okay.
Anyway, so there are 3 things that you need in order to make a properly exposed photograph, which is your ISO, your aperture, and your shutter speed.
What are those things?
Okay. So,
Which one do you want to talk about? I feel like we should talk about each one, right?
Yes, I would agree. Let's start with the ISO,
Okay.
because I think that's the one that most people, I wouldn't say struggle with, but it might answer some of the questions that a lot of
They're
beginners
like, what
have.
is this?
No.
What is ISO?
Because you see it all the time when people are just beginning. Why are my photos so grainy? Right? That's one of the first questions people ask, right? And that is directly related to ISO, right? So, come here. No, that probably looks bad.
That probably already looks bad.
So,
Don't get too excited, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah. ISO directly relates to how sensitive your camera sensor is to light. The higher the ISO, the more sensitive it is to light, but at a cost, which is grain,
Cost.
right? Now, and there is a difference in, like, if you're shooting on a crop sensor body versus a full frame body. I could go into all the engineering behind it, but the reality of it is the signal to noise ratio on a DX cropped body is not as great as it is on a full frame, because your sensor is not as big as a full frame sensor, right?
So can I just pause you for a second?
Yeah.
Because you just said I'm not going to go into
I know, but
the
I have
difference
to.
between a crop and a full frame sensor.
And then I
then
did.
immediately went into
I
it.
did. I did.
So
But anyway,
ISO is the sensitivity of the sensor
to light.
to light. And the
Correct.
higher that sensitivity is, the more grain you're going to have.
Correct.
What he was going to delve into, and I stopped him for a second.
Yeah.
Because you were going to go off on a tangent.
About pixel densities.
Pixel densities.
And signal to noise
Yep,
ratio.
Yep. Basically, the larger sensor that your camera has, the higher ISO it can handle with less noise, such as a cell phone camera versus an actual professional camera.
Right.
Like if you try to take a picture of the stars with your iPhone, it'll never touch what my camera or your camera can do.
Correct. It might look really good on your screen.
Right.
But once you actually put it into a computer and start blowing it up, you'll notice things right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever seen one of my Milky Way photographs or any of the photos that Justin's taken, you could literally print a billboard out of one of those photographs and still maintain all of that detail.
Yeah.
And it would look crisp and gorgeous.
Yep.
You can't do that with
No.
a cell phone.
No.
Not to that degree.
No.
So that's ISO.
Well, and the thing to keep in mind with ISO is that I think there are 2 points I want to make. I think number one, people are far too worried about grain. Emotion trumps all when it comes to photography. And I can't remember, I don't remember if it was Joe McNally or maybe Scott Kelby. I don't remember who, but they were talking about the days of film, right? Which was ASA, right? So you had different ASAs of film.
Well, we still it was an ISO. It was the film speed.
Yeah, but they called it ASA. But anyway, we're splitting hairs. The point of the conversation was, if you look at some of the photos that they were taken, like, and I'm going to pick, they specifically were talking about this, the iconic Muhammad Ali photo, the one after his box. I can't remember who he was boxing, but he was standing over him with his arm kind of
everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that photo.
Yeah.
It looks like Swiss cheese, and like literally they said it looks like Swiss cheese because they were using such a high ASA film, which meant that there was a lot more grain, because in order to get more photons captured of light, you need a larger surface area, right? But that doesn't mean that's not a bad, it's like an iconic photo.
I mean, one of my photographs that actually was accepted for exhibition in Berlin was taken on a crop sensor body, and I think I was shooting at like ISO 6400, like super, super, super grainy.
Yeah.
But, you know, the trick, throw it in black and white, work the grain, over sharpen it,
and
turn
throw
it
a vignette on it?
I didn't throw a vignette on it, but
should have thrown a vignette on it.
but I worked with the noise instead of trying to reduce it. I went, okay, how much sharper can I make this image? Can I still make out the Minneapolis police on the building? And I'm that far back, and I'm at ISO 6400 on that small of a sensor. And it was a matter of, do you get the shot or not?
Right.
And if you're going to get the shot, like, don't be afraid to crank that ISO up if you need to. Because sometimes it's worth it, you know, to try and fix it later or not.
Right. One of my very first published photos was taken on the Nikon D80. They said that nothing above ISO 800 would be usable, right, for print. And I was published in when PBS did it. I think I talked about this before, maybe, or maybe not.
I don't think so.
PBS used to do this contest called Capture Minnesota, and it was photographers capturing different aspects of Minnesota, whether it was street photography, landscapes, wildlife, whatever. And it's a picture of the Hjortis. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but the
long ship up in Grand
the
Marais?
the sailboat that's up there, coming into. I'll have to send you the photo. We can pop it in the video. It was sailing into the Grand Marais Harbor, and it was at sunset, and you could see the Sawtooth Mountains in the background and stuff like that. And it was picked for publication in that book.
That's
right.
That's dope.
And that was shot at I can't remember if it was ISO 1100 or 1600 because I was still in my infancy. But I know I was over that 800 threshold that they said was not usable. And you know what else I noticed when I looked at the book? I looked at the book and I didn't see any noise. I wasn't sitting there going, oh, look at all that film grain and stuff like that. What you see on the computer versus what it's going to look like in print are two different things. When you're looking at it on your computer and you're zooming into 100%, that is the equivalent of having a 3 foot by 6 foot print and looking at it from 3 inches away.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't even look at 8 by 10s 3 inches away.
Right. Yeah. That's like, for example, with most cell phone pictures, you can get away with 4 by 6s, maybe even 8 by 10s, depending on what the photo
some of the newer ones, I think you could probably do 11 by 14s because they have some. My son's got one of the Google Pixel, the newest Google Pixel 10, I think it is, or whatever. And there's some very good noise removal stuff that's in there, so you might be able to get it to it. I haven't tried, but yeah, you try to go above that 8 by 10, 11 by 14 threshold.
Yeah,
and it falls apart. It falls apart.
All right.
So
that's
that's a long way of saying
of explaining.
Don't be afraid of noise.
Don't be afraid of noise.
The thing of it is, though, is what's going to end up happening is you're going to be afraid of noise when you start cropping images.
Yes.
When you start cropping in because you weren't close enough, that is going to make things so much worse. So that is another thing. Be wary of that. That when you start cropping. I have a Z8, which is fairly new technology. I mean, it's not the newest technology. I'm shooting ISO between 3200 and 6400 at my daughter's dance competitions. Excuse you.
Excuse me.
Jeez. When I start even on that camera, which has the newest technologies out there, when I start cropping in, the noise becomes apparent right away. And we're talking about a $4,000 camera body. You have to learn to embrace it. Noisy photos are not bad photos.
You'd rather have the picture.
I'd rather have the picture.
Yeah.
So that's what I got to say about that.
So that's
ISO.
All right. So next, I would like to talk about Aperture. Because I feel like most people have no freaking idea what Aperture actually is.
Yes.
And I'm going to get a little sciencey as we get into Aperture. And
I get to calm you down.
I only have 5 minutes I see on the timer.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and get through this as fast as I can.
We're not going to make it in 5 minutes. Should we just reset the cameras now?
You know what?
We should.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're just going to reset now.
Yeah,
That's a good call.
Let's start the timer. Timer's going. All right, another 20 minutes. Okay, so.
All right. Aperture.
Aperture.
So this is, what would you say is the top of the exposure triangle?
I don't know if there is a top. I mean, to me, they're all equally important.
I mean, that's why it's a triangle.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Maybe it should be a circle.
Aperture is arguably one of the most important settings that you'll set on your camera. And this goes back
really
to the film days. Oh, yeah.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because that's what makes or breaks your final vision.
Does it?
I'm coming from the perspective of landscape photography.
Okay.
So
we have to be careful with these caveats because in portrait photography, that can hold true. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing competition dance photography, I would say Aperture is one of the least of your problems. So this just brings up a point.
How many people out there are doing competition dance photography?
Honestly, you'd be surprised. You would be surprised at how many cameras I see at these competitions and how many parents are trying to do their best.
I'll let you talk about shutter speed then, okay? That can be.
But I'm just saying.
That can be your.
Saying that one is more important than the other is dangerous.
No. I said arguably.
Well, and I'm arguing. I'm arguing that you are wrong.
Arguably.
Anyway.
The most important setting that you'll put on your camera. And the biggest reason being of diffraction.
Okay, so before we get down that road, what does Aperture do? So we talked about what ISO did.
What ISO does.
What does Aperture do?
So what Aperture does,
or what is it?
is on your lens, on an actual camera lens, on the back of that lens, there are blades that are put into a diaphragm. Actually, I mean,
nobody's going to see that.
maybe. There are blades that are put into a diaphragm. Hey, you've got the 50 right there.
I do have the 50 right there. Maybe you might be able to. She's pretty tight.
So, no, you're probably not going to be able to see that.
No.
But as you, wait, I can do it on the 50. Hang on. Let me
Do you want me to get my 70? The 70 to
it's fine.
70 to 200's right there. She got a big old back end.
So on the back of the lens, okay, there are these diaphragm blades. Wait, there it is.
I think that's going to be tough, but hopefully we can see.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
See how the lens is doing this opening and closing thing? So on the back of the lens, there are blades that open and close. And the reason why a lens has that is because of diffraction.
No.
No?
No.
Why?
What do the blades do? You haven't said what the blades
Okay.
are there, but you haven't said what they do. What do the blades control?
They control the amount of light that is allowed from the lens to the sensor of the camera.
Okay, thank you. Now you can continue.
And the reason why this is important is because of diffraction. So diffraction, what? What do you want to say now?
Nothing. Nope.
You want to say bokeh and depth of field and no. We're going to talk about diffraction, okay? Science, bitch!
Diffraction's not normally important until you're on the... anyway, go ahead. This is your thing. I'm not... No. You go ahead.
Okay,
Okay.
so,
Diffraction.
Jesus Christ, Joseph.
Tell me about diffraction.
Now I don't want to.
No.
Now you made me sad about it. Now I think I'm just going to talk dumb terms.
Okay.
Okay. So the lower your f-stop is, the lower the number, like 1.8, for example, the more blurred your background is going to be behind your subject, which is going to create a shallow depth of field. Depth of field meaning the field of view that you have in focus in your composition. So diffraction is important because the higher you go with your f-stop, the more diffraction increases, and there is a perfect point of focus with every single lens. And that is important because you want, with landscape photography or real estate photography or aerial photography or any photography where you're trying to get a large scene, you want a high f-stop because you want everything that you're seeing sharp and in focus, right? Depending on the composition that you're going for.
Right. But generally speaking, yes, I would agree.
But the reason why I say it's one of the most important settings that you'll set on your camera is because your f-stop, also known as your aperture, is going to make or break what your vision is in your composition. So, for example, if I'm sitting and I see a beautiful tree and it's 30 feet away from me, it's not, like way off on the landscape,
Sure.
like it's pretty close. And I love how this tree looks, and the background is, I don't know, a town, just some random buildings and whatever. I want to have as low of an f-stop as possible. I want my aperture to be as wide open as possible because I want the focus to just be on that tree. Everything else in the background can be blurred, whatever, because it's going to bring more attention to that tree. However, if I'm up on the North Shore, out by Lake Superior, and I'm looking at the Sawtooth Mountains, I'm going to set my f-stop to probably like f8 to f11 because I want everything that I'm seeing completely in focus. So if you try to take the same shot, a wide landscape shot, at f1.8, like a super wide aperture, what generally happens with most lenses is the center of your composition is in focus, but once you look towards the edges of your composition, it is not in focus. That's because of diffraction. I'm going to put little pop-up bubbles for diffraction in there.
Yeah.
And the thing about diffraction, and the reason why it's important to know, is because it can be too much. If you go too high on your f-stop, it has degrading effects on your sharpness. So instead of, some people will be like, oh, if I want the sharpest image possible, I'm going to go all the way up to f22. Well, what happens when you get that tight on the back of the lens and you're only allowing that much light to be put through to the sensor, diffraction keeps working, but it starts working backwards. So you start getting a more blurred image again, as if you were shooting wide open. And that's just the way that light interacts with glass. And that's basically, am I missing anything? I feel like that's basically aperture.
Well, I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit. But I mean,
the depth of field and
the depth of field, right? Like the lower your f-stop, the more what I would call background separation you get.
More of that 3D pop effect that you see with certain photographs.
Which is why when you see a lot of my portrait work, I'm shooting that at like 1/8.
Yeah.
Because I want that shallow depth of field because I want my subject to jump off. I don't.
Right.
The background, don't get me wrong, the background is important, right? Where you put your subject.
Right, because you want context.
You want context, right? So the background is as important, but primarily, especially, and this is coming from like the senior photographer in me, right? The environment
Which is his
important.
bread and butter. If you guys haven't seen Justin's portrait work, it's pretty impeccable.
I appreciate that. I mean, same thing with the dancers and stuff like that. I do push. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. The 1/8 is because of the fact that, yes, the environment is important, but it's not as important as my subject.
What, did you lose your mic?
No, but it kind of looks like that's one of my buttons on the floor over there. So I had a shiny object syndrome. There are
just a washer.
looks like a button. There are people that do like more environmental portraiture, which runs higher f-stop, so a little bit more of the environment is in focus, which is cool and neat, and it's just not for my line of what I'm doing. I don't really do a lot of that. More often than not, I'm shooting at that wide open. So.
Ooh, I thought about something I want to bring up now.
So for those of you that are just getting started, especially like if you have a kit lens, one of the best things you can do to get, because I also see a lot of questions about how do you get a blurry background.
How do I get better,
like that
sharper
separation?
Focus,
well,
and blurred
that separation.
and,
I want to take portraits. How do you get those blurry backgrounds? One, you either have to invest in a lens that has a lower f-stop, right? If that's not within your budget, one of the best things you can do is take whatever lens you have
and take 10 steps back from your subject.
Rack
and
it.
Zoom in all the way.
Exactly. Zoom in all the way, and you may have to back up or whatever the case may be. But then you're going to start getting that compression.
Yep.
And you're going to get that blurrier background than if you were zoomed out instead of trying to fit you to your subject, fit the environment to the subject. So that means you're going to have to move.
Yes.
I move around a lot.
Yep. As we used to say, your legs. That's just good old-fashioned manual zoom.
Yeah. I honestly think that's why I would prefer kit cameras to come with prime lenses.
Oh,
instead.
yeah.
So
they used to?
I know they used to.
Yeah, like the K1000 that came out with the 50 millimeter 1.7.
Yeah.
Which is one of the best portrait lenses they ever made.
It teaches people to move.
Yeah, and it teaches you to use the lens.
Yeah.
Because the other thing too that most people don't understand is when you have a lens that has a higher minimum aperture, such as a kit lens, like the lowest that you're going to be able to get with this lens is like 5.6.
At its longest. At its
widest point,
well,
maybe 3.5.
3.4, 3.5, 3.4. But normally they're like
But
3.5 to 5.6
but there are
or
lenses
6.3.
where, instead of 3.5, it's at like 1.7 or 1.8, which is about half.
Right.
So that means that physically speaking, when it comes to the measurement of light, like how much light is getting through your lens to your sensor, it's literally twice the amount of light that's
Which-
getting through.
Also means you can drop your ISO
Yep.
to get less noise because they're letting so much extra light in.
Yep. And light is measured exponentially, and that's one thing that most people don't understand. And photography literally means capturing light, right? Or painting with light or something like that.
We live and die by light.
Yeah, we live and die by light. So light fall off and light reception, light is exponential.
Is this where we start talking about the inverse square law?
Not yet.
Maybe we shouldn't go there yet.
Not yet. Not yet. We'll get there.
Okay.
But so that's why aperture is so important. And what most people don't understand, what I was going to get into, is that most people think, okay, so my lens can shoot at 1.2, or 1.8. I can shoot wide open all the time. I'm always going to shoot wide open all the time. Don't do that. The reason being is because of the fact that your lens is designed to accept this amount of light from the front glass element all the way to the back. So when you drop that 1.2 down to, and it sounds backwards, when you drop a 1.2 down to like a 4, and you go up to like an f4, right? You're still getting more light coming in that glass than if that lens was designed to only be at f4. And that's literally just how the lens is designed to receive light. So if you have a lens that's at 1.2 and you just always love your background being super blurry, I mean, do your thing, that's fine. But you could be getting more sharpness from your subject front to back, top to bottom, and possibly better depth of field separation if you played around with that a little bit more.
A little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might go to 2.8.
The only time that I'll go up to like f4 is when I'm doing so a good rule of thumb is when you're doing group photos.
Group photos or headshots?
Yep, group photos or headshots. You should be around f4. If you're shooting like weddings, like big group pictures, sometimes I'll go up to like 5, 6, 6, 1.
Depends on how far back I can get typically.
But usually I don't go much above 4.
No,
because
I don't either.
I don't.
Even with my dance competition stuff with my daughter, I'm normally locked in at about f4.
Yeah.
And that's just, can I shoot 2.8? I absolutely can. But when you're in that kind of an environment, f4 is a little bit safer to get in focus photos than 2.8.
Right.
So
and that's the other thing too.
That's part of the learning.
When you're shooting at a higher aperture, you have a lot more, forgiveness in the margin of error, in case you do miss focus, or your subject moves right as you go to hit the shutter. When you're shooting at 1.2, 1.7, 2.8 even.
1.8 for me.
If you take one step forward or back, you're probably going to be out of focus.
Or if your subject makes a move.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Well,
But anyway,
even if you're poised and ready, and if you just pop forward just a little bit.
Yeah, that's something I've learned very, very quickly with macro photography.
Yeah. Oh God, yes.
Because having that lens at 2.8, it's no, you can't take photos of anything in that.
Breathing throws
in
it off.
2.8 because, and that's me sitting squatted with a monopod, trying to take a picture of something. Yeah. And you lean forward just the tiniest bit. And
my macro photos of my mushrooms and stuff like that, all of it, it's all on a tripod. I take the time. It takes me forever to set up a shot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you've seen my mushroom shots, right?
Yeah, they're pretty dope.
Not as cool as some of the ones that I've seen. I'm working on it, though.
All right. So
then we could get into focus stacking.
Wow, I did really good. That was Aperture.
3 minutes.
So far we've talked about ISO. That has to do with your camera body. We've talked about aperture, which has to do with the physical lens itself. Next, we're going to talk about shutter speed, which is
Back to the camera
last physical thing that happens, and that has to happen in the body as well. And we can get into let's just talk about mechanical shutter, because that's going to make sense to most people, because that's a mechanical
I'm
thing
just going to
that's
talk about shutter speed generically.
generically. Like
It's not going to be a mirrorless versus DSLR shutter speed.
well, the way that I would explain it is, like a shutter speed, that's how fast the shutter opens and closes.
Correct. Well, I mean, anyway, let's reset the cameras first.
So
Okay.
we talked about ISO.
We did.
That is the sensitivity of your sensor, which is literally capturing everything that you're taking.
Right.
The sensitivity to light. We talked about aperture, which is the amount of light that your lens is allowing your sensor to see.
Right.
Now let's talk about shutter speed.
Shutter speed. I think this is the one that gets a lot of people in trouble. So
Your shutter speed is too damn high. Okay,
so
shutter speed.
So shutter speed, basically what a shutter does, whether it's electronic or mechanical, is basically how long the sensor is exposed to light, right?
Yes.
So if you're shooting, let's just say a normal, like 1/500th, right? That's a shutter speed, 1/500th. That means for 1/500th of a second, your sensor is exposed to light.
Yeah. To everything that the lens is seeing.
Correct.
1/500th of a second.
Right. So when you when you use a higher shutter speed, that's very good at capturing motion and freezing motion, I should say. Sorry, freezing motion, because it's such a short duration of what's going on.
Duration.
What?
I just like how you threw an extra syllable in there.
Duration.
Duration?
Oh, anyway.
So
For me, this is incredibly important. For me, for some of the work that I do, because I've shot Nutcracker ballets for 2 different dance companies. I'm shooting my daughter's dance competitions currently. Mm-hmm. And in those situations, and I'm speaking in general terms, there are some creative movement photos with slower shutter speed, but I'm speaking in general terms right now. I'm not
trying
talking
to
about
capture it, freeze
right.
it.
You want to freeze it, right? So when you
Someone
hear,
doing a backflip.
right.
Someone do some crazy pirouette in the air.
Right. Or like with my daughter's dance competition, the high kick, making sure that, you're capturing the kick at the height and stuff like that, and freezing it there, right? That's what a higher shutter speed will do. A lower shutter speed, you start introducing motion blur into things. Some of the photos that we took at the holiday party for the Renfest thing were at slower shutters, because the Shimmy and Spice belly dancers had cloth that they were using and stuff like that, and made really neat kind of movement type things. Another thing, like with a lower shutter speed, if you want to take a waterfall picture and get that, a picture of a waterfall and get that silky smooth water,
where it looks like the landscape and everything is sharp, but the water looks like it's being painted. That's because you're shooting with a longer shutter speed.
Right. So that your shutter's open for longer. So it's
you're getting the motion of
you're
the
getting
water.
the motion. You're capturing the motion of the water.
So shutter speed really is just capturing motion. Well, depending on how you use it.
Simply, yes, because there are plenty of people, and this is the dangers of, when you start using auto settings, right? Cameras have not been very good about figuring out what you're trying to shoot. They've tried, right? Because you have a sport mode and you have a Mac, some of those things.
Landscape mode and all of that.
Yeah. So all those modes are doing is prioritizing one thing over another.
One of the things being the exposure triangle.
What? Yeah, it's basically taking And prioritizing the exposure triangle based on what scene you're selecting. So if you're selecting a sports scene, it's going to prioritize having a high shutter speed
Yep.
over everything else.
Yep.
If you're on landscape mode, it's going to prioritize your aperture over everything else.
Yep.
If you're on night scene mode, it's going to prioritize your ISO over everything else. And it's going to try to balance it out as best it can.
Yeah. And
But
what it gets
doesn't.
wrong is, for example, if you're trying to capture a night scene. So one of the things that I've fallen in love with over the last decade is astrophotography. And shutter speed is incredibly important when it comes to astrophotography because you are capturing the stars. So you want the highest or the longest shutter speed that you can possibly have. But what happens is the Earth is rotating, right? And everything is moving in the sky. So if you have too long of a shutter speed, then you're going to have what we call star trailing, and you're going to have motion blur from the Earth's rotation. So you have to figure out, there's actually a mathematical formula that depending on the lens that you are using and the focal length that you are using, there is a maximum time that you can use that shutter and have it open for before introducing star trails.
Correct.
So I want to say, like with 50 millimeters, for example, I think it's like 5 seconds.
It's basically you take.
Is it the rule of 500? Is that what I'm thinking of?
But the thing of it is that also changes based on if you're using DX.
Crop sensor versus full
Right,
frame.
the crop sensor versus full frame. If you want to go down that road, my suggestion is just Google astrophotography shutter speed or shutter speed rule, and it'll tell you because I think you're right. I think like on a 50 mil lens, it's like 5 seconds.
I need to look this up and make sure that I'm right because I'm pretty sure it's the rule of 500.
I think it is the rule of 500
Yes.
as well.
So the rule of 500 in astrophotography is a guideline for determining the longest shutter speed for a given lens. So calculated by 500 divided by the focal length.
Correct.
So for a 50 millimeter, it would be 10 seconds. That'd be the
Yes.
longest, period, absolute
And-
longest that you could take
And honestly,
without needing an equatorial mount.
if
or
you
some
start
sort of star
pixel
tracker.
peeping at 10 seconds,
It's gonna.
depending on where its position is in relation to Polaris,
Yep.
you may get star trailing.
Yep.
Like if you're shooting the southern sky, at 10 seconds, you're going to get a couple pixels
Just
shift.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So that being said, a lot, not all, but a lot of the Milky Way photos, especially any deep space photos that you guys have ever seen, like photos of
Yeah.
Andromeda or anything like that, what those photographers usually do is they take multiple shots at a lower shutter speed, and then they stack them all together in post,
Yeah.
and then composite a final
And that's a
image,
whole.
which is a whole different
That
ballgame.
don't even.
Astrophotography is a crazy, crazy, crazy world.
Yeah.
But
We're not
shutter
even
speed is Shutter speed is important in every regard of photography because, when you are shooting dance photos or you're shooting action shots, you want a high shutter speed because you're trying to freeze that motion.
Right.
All the way down to landscape photography and waterfalls and motion and capturing, a nature scene but making it feel alive. All the way down to astrophotography and shooting like the night sky, and like when we were shooting the Aurora Borealis,
Right.
even then we were shooting anywhere from 6 seconds to 4 seconds to 8 seconds to 2
somewhere in there,
seconds,
yeah.
trying to figure out the difference of, I want to capture a lot of the color and the brightness of the Aurora Borealis, but I also want to capture the actual sharpness of it dancing through the sky.
Right, the ribbons.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
because
So
a lot of times you don't get to see the ribbons.
Right. So there's a lot of tinkering in between, and shutter speed. I mean, this plays into like aperture, right? So when we're out shooting the Aurora, for example, we set our aperture to what we want the lens to be at. We want the whole area in focus, but we want to be letting in as much light as possible. So maybe set it to like 3.5 or 4. Because
I think most of mine were at 4.
I think mine were at 4.
But I was also
F4.
shooting it. We were shooting really wide too.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're shooting really wide lenses, like I have a 20 mil.
Yep.
At f4, there's a lot of stuff that's in focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
Same
if
thing
I
with
was
my
using like a
14 millimeter, that thing is almost 180 degrees
Right.
field of view.
But if I was doing f4 at a 70 to 200,
Right.
wouldn't.
You're only getting one little section of sky
right.
at that
So it gets tricky. Like I said, this is not like the end all be all.
Yeah.
Like different lenses have different effects with different
Yep. And
apertures.
And now, after we have been talking about the exposure triangle for the last almost hour,
Yeah.
you guys are beginning to understand just how deep this medium of art really, really
And
is.
we're scratching. Like
Because-
we are scratching
yeah.
the surface.
I
Like
could-
this is a very
We could probably
general
sit
overview.
and talk about any one of these things, aperture, shutter speed, or ISO, for over an hour. Easy.
Oh, easy.
Easily.
Yes.
Because every one of them is so incredibly important to creating an image. And that's what photography is. I mean, photography has been going for
Hundreds of
1750 or 1739, something like that. I
Hundreds
think
of
was
years.
when it was basically the foundations of photography were laid down to what we are using today.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is it's actually one of the newest art forms.
It is.
In terms of what art is, when you think
Yeah.
of different artistic mediums, photography is one of the newest that we have. And it's arguably one of the deepest. There's so
Yeah.
much that you can do with photography. Like you brought up the winter market and the dancers. So Justin was using a lower shutter speed to capture the motion of their ribbons and their fabric and whatever as they were dancing around. I was shooting in a lower shutter speed and then intentionally moving my camera. We call it intentional camera movement, ICM. And I would take a longer shutter speed and then I would quickly twist the camera to create motion of the image itself with them as the subjects. And there's just so much that you can do with, we talk about long shutter speeds and star trailing. Sometimes you want star trails. It's a really cool way to show off the rotation of the Earth.
It is. Like some of those people that do those really long exposure star trail ones where it's just all these circles in the sky from those are really cool.
I posted one the other day that was actually taken from our family cabin up north. And the way that Polaris was centered in between their pine trees over the lake, it was like I couldn't have possibly asked for a better composition for that. And it was really interesting to take a single shot of the stars and then to identify Polaris and go, I'm going to turn this into a star trail shot to show off the rotation. And that's something that I could only do with understanding how shutter speed works. And once you understand how ISO works, how shutter speed works, and how aperture works, and you understand how they all work together, that is the key to learning how to shoot in full manual, which is what any photographer worth their salt will tell you, is you should always be shooting in full manual, which I'll admit, I don't always shoot in full manual. That's a circumstantial thing.
I mentioned this the last time. I can't. I cannot not be in full manual control.
Most of the time, I agree. Most of the time, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. I just,
Like
I can't.
If I'm hiking, if I'm at the Renaissance Festival, if I'm doing headshots or family portraits or shooting in the studio, literally the only time that I will ever put my camera into any sort of automatic function ever is when I'm shooting a wedding. I will put it into shutter and aperture priority. So I am choosing the shutter speed and the aperture of the lens. And then I will set my ISO parameters to allow my camera to go between ISO 100 and 1600. And then I'll tell it, hey, I want my exposure one stop underexposed.
That's
so I still
a little
have
bit,
control
yeah,
over my
that's a little bit
ISO,
different. I'm talking about the actual programmed scenes that are on these cameras.
Yeah, don't
No,
do that.
Don't do that.
Please, for the love of Ansel Adams, please learn what the manual functions of your camera do, because once you learn those functions, you're never gonna go back, and you're gonna go into your camera. You know, you buy a new camera from the store, and you're gonna go into it, and you're gonna turn off every automatic function that you can, and then you're gonna realize what your camera is actually capable of doing, and it's incredible.
And that's the difference between. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to upset anybody or make people mad or anything like that. But that's the difference between us who do this for a living and the
live
Facebook
and breathe photography on a
right
daily
and the
basis.
Facebook photographers out there.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of what I'm seeing with a lot of the and I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody, because again, we all have to start somewhere. But my opinion is if you don't even have a fundamental knowledge of the exposure triangle and can't shoot in manual, you should not be charging people.
Yeah. Don't be taking people's money. Like,
you should not.
I have to agree to an extent. I have to agree, because I learned on film, you know, just like you did. When you had film, your ISO was literally the film that you bought. So, you know, you bought an ISO film speed of 200 or 400, or if you could afford it, 1600 or 3200. I think 3200 was like the highest ISO film speed that I ever saw. And that was it. And you had to set your camera settings around whatever film speed you put in. So the point being is, once you learn manual, you can pick up any camera and you can shoot that camera. Because once you understand what a shutter speed does in tandem with an aperture's settings versus, you know, what you have the ISO set to, like, for example, I could pick up your camera. You could take any one of mine, and we would know exactly what to do to get the images that we see in our heads, because that's photography.
Aperture,
that's how concrete the exposure triangle is.
Right, it's not brand specific.
No, it's not brand specific. This is science, physics, and art all wrapped together.
Yep.
And it's an absolutely incredible thing. I've been in love with it since I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
You know, since literally as long as I can remember, I've been in love with it.
Well, and some people ask me, you know, and I'm sure you get asked too. It's like even fellow photographers, you know, how did you do that? How did you get that shot? That's the difference between me, and again, I'm not trying to be mean. When you have that deeper understanding of what aperture, ISO, and shutter speed are doing, you can pull off some pretty crazy things. Like, you've heard me say it a million times. I've probably even said it in the podcast. If you can't shoot into the sun, why are you even shooting?
Yeah.
Right?
Because when you understand how to shoot into the sun using the exposure triangle.
Right.
Yeah.
I get those beautiful backlit portraits, right?
Yeah.
That a lot of people can't. If you tried to do that on an automatic mode, what you would have is a properly exposed sky and a completely dark subject in front of you. Because the camera just doesn't know what to do with that.
Yep. And once you understand that your camera is simply a tool to create the things that you see in your head and how you see the world, and anything is really possible.
Yep. I forgot to reset the timer.
Good job.
I did. We should go check.
We should probably check.
Okay.
So tonight we really dove into. We did like a exposure triangle for dummies kind of a thing. Not that anybody here is dumb.
No.
If you've read the books, you know what I'm talking about.
Just a high level oversight of. Well, I mean, maybe some of you could probably. I mean, some of you that are just starting maybe are just learning, or can pull some tidbit of information out of that. But I think it also shows, like, how deep down this rabbit hole we've got kind of started, right? And believe me, what we talked about here and the brief little things that we've talked about, like we are scratching the surface of this.
Yeah, well, you could probably sit and talk about all of this for another hour. We could make an episode 5.
Yeah, we said that.
Be episode
5. Shutter
We should do episode 4, part 1.
No.
And then episode 4, part 2.
We'll see if people want
I
to
don't
see
know.
that first.
You know, we've got more.
Yeah.
It's still early. It's
old.
only 8:15 there, big guy.
I know. Democracy.
Oh yeah, that's
Democracy
fair.
calls.
We could still get some time for Helldivers in tonight.
Right.
Yeah,
We
that's
haven't
fair.
played together for a little while.
I know, that's true.
But-
I've been having a good time playing around with different loadouts lately.
I've just been
and just
messing
like
around.
cry laughing
Yeah.
and dying a lot.
Yeah.
And it's been a good time.
Yeah.
For anybody unfamiliar, Helldivers 2 is one of the greatest cooperative gaming experiences,
I would agree.
period.
Especially
And-
when you're playing with good people.
Yeah, and Justin and I have been playing this game together for, has it been like a year already?
A year.
Okay.
Basically, from the
I was
time we
gonna say,
met.
I remember convincing you to buy
Yes,
this game
yes.
very shortly after we met,
Yeah.
and we've been playing together almost daily.
And then I brought my Justin in.
Yep, then you brought your friend Justin into it, and then, we play together all the time. And
As much as we can.
yeah, it's a great experience.
It is.
But this is officially the outro for episode 4.
Yeah. So hopefully you learned a little something from
I
it.
really hope that you guys did learn some things. So this episode came from a lot of feedback from one of our followers, Dorianne. She is also known as Fest Mommy. Thank you, Dorianne. Love you.
Yep.
Mwah.
Dory.
But we want you guys to understand what we are talking about as much as we possibly can help you understand.
Right.
So if there's things that we're talking about and there's jargon that we're throwing back and forth and there's certain subjects that we're touching on and you're like, what is that? Did they just start speaking another language? Like, what the heck are these
They're
guys talking
speaking in
about?
tongues.
Like, what is this Pentax and Nikon? And what is it of this K things and D things? And let us know. Let us know in the comments. Leave us your feedback.
Yeah.
We want to hear those things because we want this to be a very community-oriented thing. I mean, that's,
Agreed. Because Josh and I can talk about this offline.
yeah, we talk about this stuff all the time. We
Yeah.
started this podcast because we wanted to share the passion that we have with this medium of art and how much we are similar and different in how
Yeah.
we handle photography
How much we love it.
and how much we love it and how much we know about it with all of you.
And how ADD our conversations
Yeah,
get.
the ADHD brain's really present in
Yeah.
this podcast.
It is.
It's all
It
over the
is.
place. Everything from
Yeah.
the random mispronunciations of words to the random shiny objects on the
Yeah,
floor
right.
to
I'm almost wondering if we just don't cut anything and we just.
yeah, it kind of seems like we could probably just piece this whole.
Well, I mean,
episode
just
together.
maybe cut when we have to go reset the cameras
Yeah,
or something.
we'd probably do that. All right.
But yeah, I just. Yeah, it's random thoughts. It's random thoughts with us, and and hopefully we can, we're not.
Maybe entertain you a little bit
Yeah.
along the way.
Well, I mean, we're not gatekeepers, right?
No. And
By any means, I will tell anybody. I will tell anybody what I'm shooting, how I'm shooting, what settings I use. I don't care.
I just did a session in here this last week with a aspiring model who is also
Is this the one that
a
I'm going to be working with
photographer.
too?
Shay.
I wasn't going to name drop, but
Good luck looking up Shay and knowing who we're talking.
Well,
Spell it.
I know. I'm just.
But
it's me.
But she was awesome, and she loved learning about what I was doing, and she had never seen a studio and the lights that I'm using, and like I'm telling her about my settings and how I get, she loved it. So
We're gonna
being able to share the knowledge that we have.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't be able to be doing what we're doing for a living if people didn't share their knowledge with us.
I mean, I've even shared my knowledge with you a little bit on some of the lighting and stuff.
Some. Quite a bit more
Okay.
than I think you'd share with most people.
Well, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same token, your shots don't look like mine.
No, and I don't want them to.
No, I mean that's not. We're not trying to. You're not
Right.
trying to copy somebody. Right?
There's a difference between wanting to copy somebody because you are envious and you want to do what they are doing, and
you are jealous and trying to get attention.
and looking at somebody else's work and being inspired by it.
Yeah.
And wanting to use that person's knowledge and inspiration to do something on your own, to create your own thing. That's what we want to do. We are all about collaboration when it comes
absolutely.
to everybody doing better
I will say this, and I'm going to probably piss off a few people.
You've said that a few times tonight.
It happens. I feel how I feel. You know what I mean? One of my biggest pet peeves, okay, and this might be a topic, the morality behind the photo, right? This might be a topic.
It can be a long outro. That's okay.
Yeah, this might be another topic for another podcast. If you're going into somebody else's space and using their setups, their lighting, to me, that's not creating, that's copying.
Like if you're using literally their exact same setup.
Correct. That's copying. That's not creating. Just because you have a different person standing in front of there, the only thing that you brought to the table was that different person.
That's fair. That actually reminds me of ironically, a post I came across on Facebook. And it was on Reddit. Somebody asking why their photo looked so flat. And it was a photography workshop. They each had 10 minutes with a subject. The lighting in the backdrop was already set up.
Yep.
They weren't allowed to touch any of it.
Correct.
What are you doing?
You're copying at that point.
You're not even, if you're walking into a scene and that scene is artificially already set up for you and all you're doing is walking in there and clicking a shutter, you're not photographing, you're taking pictures.
Right.
That's the difference between a photographer and somebody that takes pictures, in my opinion. Because when you're a photographer, you understand, you understand the exposure triangle, there is a vision, there is a composition, there is intent, right?
That's what I was gonna, if you
intent.
didn't get there, I was gonna get there. There is an intent behind the photo.
When you're taking a picture, that's no different than whipping out your cell phone as you're walking down the street and clicking a picture and putting it back in your pocket.
I mean, I'm gonna call out some of the people that are using these pre-made studios down in the cities.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
It's the same photos over and over and over again. I give props to the original studio owners that set that up and did all that stuff.
It's a good business model. Like, come on.
Well, no, because they were the first ones to develop that set. They lit the set. They did everything. They created
so they
the
know
set.
what they're doing.
Right. They created.
Give them credit for
they
that.
created.
Yeah.
All the other people that are just walking in and going, here, model, stand here and click, 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 that's copying to me because you're literally taking something that somebody else set up.
Yeah.
And now you're calling it your own.
Yeah.
And I come from a place where every time I'm set up, every time I do things, I am manually setting up my light. It might be in the same it might be in a similar position, it might be in the same space, but I am actually setting that tone.
But that's the reason why it might be in the same position in the same place is because you already have predetermined intent.
Right.
Because you know how that's going to be lit. It's not like an easy scapegoat of, well, I just know this is going to be well lit from over here. You know that in that position, in that lighting, with that setup, this is how it's going to be lit because that's the intention that you're going for.
Right.
Yeah. So
anyway.
Yeah. Photography is very much, in my opinion, as an art form, the difference between somebody that takes a picture versus a photographer is you see the image in your head first.
Yeah.
You don't take the picture and hope
that it comes out.
You take the picture...
Unless you're doing dance competition.
But you take the picture and you know.
Right.
You know, and if the picture doesn't look the way that you intend it to look, you know the exposure triangle and you change your settings until it looks the way that you envision it in your head.
Right.
You know, whether you want that sky to be underexposed and the shadows to be super, super dramatic, or you want the sky to be blown out. And I hate pictures when the sky is blown out, but some people like it. You know,
depends on what.
And sometimes I've cranked that highlight slider all the way up because it's like, you know, the light and crazy dreamy look works for this scene.
I try to stay away from that because that's
But
just
it's-
not who I am as a photographer.
But it's the intent.
Yeah.
You know, it's the intent behind it.
A person with no intent and a camera is just a person with a camera.
That's a true statement right there, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Think that's it?
This was officially a long intro, but I
Outro?
think this... Outro.
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 We're not. Yeah.
No, we're not starting over. This
We're
was
not.
This was the end of the episode.
It was.
But there will be another one coming soon.
Yes.
I think that's all we got for tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you
Pixels
for
and
joining
Plunder.
us.
Thank you for
Pixels
joining.
and Plunder. There we go. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, I spilled in my beard.
I forgot to hit the start button again. Are we still recording?
Twas.
Sweet.
That was perfect.